Nobody could predict that this dude would be sitting on trial for his life. It just wasn't in the cards.
What's confusing is all of those things that you just said are also included in the racketeering count.
So we don't know what the vote is.
So we don't know what the vote is. It's hard to read what they...
When Angelina Jolie stepped into that courtroom, it wasn't just another Hollywood figure dragged into the Diddy scandal. It was a seismic shift. Cameras couldn't capture the full temperature in the room, but insiders say the tension hit like a thunderclap. Here was one of the most guarded women in the industry, someone who spent decades dodging paparazzi and protecting her children from headlines, suddenly offering testimony that could bring down not just Sean Diddy Combs, but her own ex-husband, Brad Pitt. It felt like the courtroom was watching a carefully curated mythology unravel in real time.
Separate, what we know is that there will be a sentencing hearing. The prosecution has said we're going to ask for a good deal of time. We don't know exactly what that is. And the defense obviously wants no time at all. So two different hearings on two different issues. The sentencing is...
What exactly did she say? Sources present in the courtroom describe Angelina as focused, deliberate, and unnervingly calm. Her words, reportedly tied to sealed documents, linked Diddy's infamous freakoff parties to events she says Brad Pitt knew about and may have even been complicit in shielding. The question hanging in the air wasn't just why she was there, but why now? Why would Angelina, of all people, blow the lid off two of the most powerful men she's ever been connected to? Speculation is running wild. Was this coerced? Was she pressured by prosecutors as they tighten the screws on Diddy's empire? Or, more chillingly, is this a calculated strike? Because make no mistake, Jolie knows how to play power. She's been through it all, a very public divorce, international custody battles, and the weight of fame since she was barely out of her teens. If she's speaking now, it's because she wants something to happen, and the whispers say what she's unleashing could rip through the Hollywood old guard like wildfire.
That was mandatory. You didn't fall within one of the exceptions. What now happens when you've been convicted of two of those particular charges? That's what the judge is going to be looking at. And again, right now, considering it sounds like statements that the defense made, essentially admitting that Sean Combs is somebody who has had personal problems, but they were doing so to try and argue that he should not be found guilty.
Let's get to the most explosive piece Jolie reportedly referenced, something insiders are calling the tapes. A former security contractor claims there are recordings that could end more than just careers. According to this tipster, Brad Pitt was allegedly captured on audio arguing with Diddy. One clip supposedly features Diddy angrily warning Pitt to keep his mouth shut after a party that got out of control. One of those high-rise LA nights, too many A-listers, too many secrets, and something went sideways. The kind of sideways that makes billionaires nervous and lawyers rich.
That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, you...
Now, here's where it gets even murkier. We're hearing that Angelina's testimony might be part of a broader sweep, an underground campaign by federal prosecutors to uncover who knew what about these now infamous gatherings. The same gatherings Terrence Howard recently broke silence on, saying that Diddy invited him over under the pretense of acting lessons, only to sit in silence, staring. Terrence told his assistant afterward, "I think he's trying to f you." That was the quote. It's not gossip anymore, it's on record. These weren't parties. They were, according to multiple sources, ritualized environments where fame and fear collided, and where silence was bought, bartered, or enforced. And some of that silence, we now know, cracked the moment Jolie walked into that courtroom. What did she see during her years with Pitt? Was he simply adjacent to Diddy's chaos? Or was he in the room when it happened? Let's not forget, this isn't the first time Pitt's name has floated near Diddy's shadowy orbit. There were already rumors that he attended several of those networking retreats. In Miami and LA, exclusive invite-only affairs where cameras were confiscated and phones were banned. Back then, no one thought twice about it. Stars mingling with moguls. But with everything we know now, those nights look a whole lot darker.
Yeah.
Why did you say no?
I didn't say no.
You didn't say yeah?
I didn't say yeah.
You said yeah on the record, but you didn't say yeah to that.
And now the feds. The rumor, the big one, is that Angelina may have made a deal. Behind closed doors, she supposedly offered testimony in exchange for partial immunity or protection. We're told she might have even handed over correspondence, emails, or texts between her and Brad that tied him, however loosely, to what Diddy's inner circle was doing. If that's true, And if Brad knew about the freak-offs, then he's not just another bystander. He's a potential witness, or worse, a participant. We also need to talk about the leverage here, because if Jolie did strike a deal, that means she was facing potential blowback herself. Not criminal, there's no hint of that yet, but reputational. And for someone like Angelina, whose legacy rests on humanitarian work and mother of 6 public poise, even a whisper of scandal could undo years of careful image building. So maybe she's doing this not just to protect herself, but to end a cycle she's been watching too long. And what a cycle it is. From Cat Williams' eerie prophecy earlier this year saying all these big deviant dudes are catching hell in 2024, to Ray J blowing the lid off celebrity hush money schemes, the walls are closing in. There's now a growing belief that the feds are using these testimonies to map out a vast web, with Diddy at the center, but not alone.
That's the one. I think that we just got caught up. I think we all got caught up in a moment. We was talking about it and having secret meetings.
So where does that leave Brad Pitt? Some say he's lawyering up hard. Others claim he's staying quiet and hoping the storm passes. But if these explosive tapes exist, and if Jolie's testimony leads the trail right to them, then silence won't save him. Not this time. And the whispers about Angelina's motivations aren't slowing down either. Is this revenge for their brutal divorce? A last strike to ensure full custody of their children? Or is she genuinely trying to right a wrong, using her power to shed light on something she can no longer stomach hiding? Either way, the dominoes are starting to tip. And the question everyone's asking now is this: what else does Angelina know? And who else is she willing to expose? And now the aftershocks are being felt across Hollywood. What Angelina Jolie exposed in that courtroom wasn't just detimony, it was a detonation. Studios are scrambling, agents whispering behind closed doors, publicists flooding inboxes with vague statements about supporting survivors in ongoing legal matters. But the panic runs deeper than PR control. Jolie's revelations didn't just implicate Diddy, they peeled the curtain back on a hidden ecosystem, an ecosystem where fame protected silence, and silence protected power. And suddenly, that silence is cracking.
My dad wasn't there in my life as a kid, so all these experiences just readied me for life. So greater than just...
At the heart of this unraveling mess is a feud that no one outside the industry was supposed to notice: Diddy versus Brad Pitt. On the surface, they operated in different lanes. One, the street-born mogul who made his fortune flipping beats into billions. The other, the golden boy from Missouri, polished by prestige films and People magazine's cameras. But insiders insist their paths crossed more than once, and not always by choice. A music executive who once worked both circles told us bluntly, Brad's name was on guest lists he never should have been on. It wasn't about collaboration, it was about exposure. It turns out the rivalry wasn't professional, it was personal. And Jolie, once positioned squarely between them, may have been the pressure point. The suggestion is that Diddy saw Brad not just as a Hollywood darling, but as someone who was privy to the deeper layers of his empire. According to one former security contractor, Pitt's team went to extreme lengths to sanitize any images, rumors, or audio that tied him to Diddy's private events. And when that failed, they leaned on reputation. After all, who would believe the worst about Brad Pitt? Well, now people might.
Man helped me understand life. He helped me understand what it was to be an artist. He helped me understand what it was to be passionate.
There's a growing belief that Brad's carefully crafted image, a humanitarian, a father, a creative visionary, was partially maintained through distance. But that distance may have been fake. The overlap between his life with Angelina and Diddy's wild orbit is becoming harder to ignore. People are digging through old event photos, red carpet pairings, even can after parties that seemed innocuous at the time. A clip from 2009 has resurfaced where Pitt deflects a question about attending Diddy's Hamptons bash. That's not really our thing, he says, smiling. But was it really not his thing? Or was he just hoping no one would ask again? And then there's the matter of the freak-offs. The phrase has haunted headlines since Terrence Howard and Cat Williams pulled the pin on the grenade. But what people don't realize is that those parties weren't just wild, they were built around secrecy and submission. And here's where things turn unsettling. Because if Angelina knew about them, as it now seems she did, then she also knew who was in the room. Not just Diddy, not just the performers, but the guests. A-listers, executives, maybe even royalty.
I'm seeing him go from his independence to then becoming Puff Daddy, you know what I'm saying? And I got a front row seat.
Industry whispers say Angelina was present at least one of these events. Not as a guest in the usual sense, more like an unwilling observer. Her relationship with Brad reportedly forced her into spaces she didn't want to be in, and when she pushed back, things got ugly behind closed doors. One source close to her former legal team claims that there were sealed documents during the Jolie-Pitt custody battle that referenced inappropriate environments and unexplained associates. Those phrases didn't mean much then, they mean everything now. We have to consider, what else did she see? And more importantly, who was trying to make sure she never said a word? If Diddy really did have recordings, if those mysterious tapes we've heard about actually exist, then it's possible Angelina was caught on them too, not as a participant, but as a witness. And if that's true, it would explain why the feds have reportedly moved her from informant to key witness status. This isn't just about getting Diddy locked up. This is about dismantling the machine.
You mentioned L.A. Reid sent you to New York and you live with P. Diddy. They call it Flavor Camp.
Flavor Camp, yeah.
So what was that experience like and how did that help Usher's career?
The fallout is no longer just legal, it's psychological, especially for Hollywood's most carefully curated power couples. With Diddy's empire under siege and Angelina's courtroom revelations blowing open sealed doors, the A-list elite are bracing for the splash damage. We're told teams surrounding Jay-Z and Beyonce have gone into full crisis mode, scrubbing old affiliations, reworking press plans, and revisiting private event guest lists that now feel radioactive. A photograph here, a performance there, each one suddenly looks like a liability. Even for a couple as untouchable as them, brand survival is no longer guaranteed in this new landscape. Usher, who once credited Diddy for launching his early career, is now facing difficult questions about what he really saw during those impressionable years. He's spoken before about the wild energy in Diddy's circles, but the euphemisms aren't holding up. The timeline overlaps are unsettling. Usher was a teen when he moved in with Diddy under the guise of mentorship. And federal investigators are now re-examining that period with fresh urgency. Publicly, he's stayed quiet. Privately, his inner circle has reportedly hired crisis consultants to get ahead of whatever else might be unearthed.
What's going to happen is that the prosecution will submit a sentencing memorandum, the defense will do the same, and the prosecution will argue that there are aggravating circumstances here. The prosecution, I think, will argue that there is evidence that and facts that the jury heard which are related to the crimes that he was convicted of that indicate that there should be prison time.
Then there's Justin Bieber. His teenage alliance with Diddy, well documented in videos, interviews, even luxury car cameos, is now being recast in a more sinister light. Clips once seen as playful now feel uncomfortable, loaded with unspoken context. Sources close to Bieber claim he's in emotional lockdown, refusing to engage publicly as his name keeps trending alongside Diddy's. The silence is telling. And it's raising a question that no superstar ever wants to face. What does the world think you knew? This is where the industry begins to buckle. These aren't side characters or forgotten protégés. They're the faces of global pop culture, now backed into corners by proximity, by memory, by evidence they may or may not have realized was incriminating. The fear isn't just about reputational fallout. It's about what happens when the myth of invincibility breaks, and the world sees that even the most polished icons are just 1 degree removed from chaos. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: Diddy wasn't doing this alone. Federal investigators have already uncovered what they're calling a circle of access. Producers, promoters, stylists, and yes, actors who helped funnel people into these so-called parties. Cat Williams said it plainly: all of these big-name deviants are catching hell in 2024, and so far, he hasn't missed. We've now heard murmurs that more subpoenas are coming, and that the list of those under scrutiny includes names nobody wants to believe. Some of them still have top-grossing films in theaters, some are headlining world tours, some are even known for championing causes like equality and mental health. And that's what makes this so terrifying. If someone as high-profile and image-conscious as Angelina Jolie was swept into this mess, what does that say about everyone else who stayed silent?
And I think when it came to, it's not just the more serious charges, but it's the more complex charges, where the jury, in order to, for instance, find guilt on the racketeering charge, was going to have to find not just that Sean Combs had kicked his girlfriend, had beat people up, had engaged in truly abhorrent behavior, but that he ran a criminal.
It's worth noting that the federal sweep wasn't limited to Diddy's homes. As of late June, Homeland Security has quietly subpoenaed multiple entities tied to talent agencies and production companies with historic ties to Diddy's social scene. This is no longer about what happened at 5 a.m. behind closed doors. This is about what was systematically ignored, enabled, and in some cases, according to allegations, covered up.
It's probably leaning towards guilt. Now, on the racketeering, I agree with you that the predicate acts may be found, but that's not all they need. There's an ultimate question. The first question on the jury verdict form is, do you find him guilty or not guilty of racketeering? Before you even get to the predicate acts, which you only get to if you find guilt, they could just be hung up on that question and say, this guy's not Tony Soprano. I am not convinced that I even want to find guilt.
Ray J's chilling revelation only adds fuel. He claims celebrities are quietly paying off potential whistleblowers to stay out of the splash zone. Somebody has the truth. Somebody pays to keep it quiet, he said. He didn't drop names, but we're told at least 3 of the people he's referring to are Oscar winners. That's the scale of this thing. It's not some fringe scandal anymore. It's metastasized. We've seen this before, just not at this scale. Weinstein, Epstein, but those cases had a face, one villain, one monster. This one? It's shapeless, it's layered, it's still hiding behind streaming deals, red carpets, and media appearances, and the only reason the cracks are showing is because someone like Angelina decided enough was enough. So what happens next? Will more victims come forward? Will more celebrities be outed by name? Will these elusive tapes finally be made public? And what happens if Angelina unleashes everything she knows? Names, dates, locations, emails. At this point, the legal gloves are off, and Hollywood's veneer is starting to rot from the inside.
A lot of these guys who come on this internet, they don't know. Bruh, they don't know that I was a New York State parole officer. I ran Elite Investigation. I ran Tiana Towers, Eastchester Housing, Tiana Towers, and Lampert Housing, doing the security teams around there. I ran clubs.
If Angelina Jolie, a global superstar, a UN ambassador, a mother of 6, can get dragged into this scandal, then who else is hiding in plain sight? And as Diddy's empire crumbles, are we looking at the end of just one man, or the collapse of an entire system that's protected him for decades? This isn't just a scandal anymore, it's a reckoning. So ask yourself, when the spotlight finally hits, who else will be standing in it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think has something to hide? Stay curious, stay bold, and until next time, keep your eyes open. The truth isn't done coming out.